So this video is part 2 of turning this jacket into this bear. In part 1, I cut out the pieces of the jacket, then I drew around the pattern shapes roughly on the interfacing, which I then cut out into pieces and laid out onto the fabric, which I then cut right up to the line on the fabric after I'd ironed them on. And then I ended up at the end of part 1 with all these different pieces which are ready to sew together. So the first step that I'm doing with these, as per the instructions, is each piece, well, not all of the pieces, but a lot of the pieces have these marks on, and that's where I'm going to turn them inside out. So to make sure that edge doesn't fray before you can stitch them up, I'm going to sew in between. It's taken me quite a lot of practice, this is just one piece, to try and get the stitches to look okay. I was using extra thick thread, but it just kept getting taffled up, so I think it was too thick. So I'm going to use, I'm using a thinner thread for this section. I'm going to switch to the extra strong thread, sorry, for the actual seams. So we will give this one a stitch. So I'm just finding the mark, and I've messed about with how wide to make the seam. This is about as good as I can get it, so. Okay, so that's the edge. Not perfect, but hopefully for this purpose it will do. Right, so now the next step is to stitch the paw pads on. Probably should pin it, but you know. Ah, I've forgotten I'm non-zigzag, aren't I? Unpicking time! Luckily not too much unpicking. Okay, so I've swapped back to the extra strong thread because I'm actually now doing the proper seams, so I haven't really kept the 4mm seam very well, it's slipped a bit, so I'm gonna just stitch again and then go backwards. Okay. Okay, this hasn't really worked at all. Maybe the stitch is too short because it's gnarled it up at the end, and that's going to come undone. Might have to think about what to do about this because it doesn't look great and I'm not quite sure how to fix that. Definitely need to make the stitch length longer. Okay, so I've actually gone off on that side and didn't realise. Right, well, we'll unpick it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to unpick it. It's going to take some thought to know how to fix, so I'm going to leave it for tonight, I think, and come back to it. So, I have basically, to get the seam apart after I had done it not very well, I actually had to cut it, which basically means that these two pieces are now too short really, so I thought I'd just use it as a test to redo the seam. I did pin it, which I should have done the first time, but basically it's with this thread, it's a really messy seam. It's really it's not very good. So I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know whether the thread is definitely the extra strong thread. I thought it was. It doesn't say on it, so it might just be sort of upholstery thread or something else. But anyway, I don't think it's really going to work for this project. Well, not with me anyway. So what I did is had a go with the other pieces. Let me just turn this off for a minute. Had a go with the other pieces, and I've made the first arm. I wanted just to try it out. So I need to add the joint and stuff it and then stitch it up, and that's that arm done. I don't know if it looks exactly how it's supposed to, because the seam wasn't as neat as it's meant to be. But I'm sure it'll look the same on the second arm, so I'll show you then. Sewing is not the thing I'm best at, let's say, particularly with sewing machines. They don't always do what I'm expecting them to do, and they don't always like me, so it's going to be a bit of an experiment. So I need to recut the pieces, and I do have this scrap piece that I think I can just about get another arm piece out, and again I have a scrap piece of the denim that I think I can just about get another paw piece out. So I need to redo that, and I'm going to just use this thinner thread, so it might not be as strong, but I am sewing it twice still, so hopefully it will still be fine. So I cut 2 replacement pieces. Actually, I cut more than 2 because I accidentally did the same thing I did before, where I ironed the interfacing on to the wrong side of the fabric. So that's going in the spare bare parts folder. So I've stitched the 2 pieces together, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to stitch from the other side and, you know, do the seam. So I'm going to put the light on now. It's a bit difficult with the light to know how best to do it so you can see, but what I'm going to do is try and get a little bit closer for you so you haven't just got my head in the way. I don't know how I filmed it before and it worked better, but right, let's move this around a bit. Now I might be doing a 5mm rather than a 4mm seam, just because the fabric's quite frayy and I don't want to risk going off the edge. I think it is looking a lot neater than the last one. Let's have a look at the other side. Okay, so we're a little bit closer in a few areas. So maybe on my second pass I'll try and get a little bit further away. It's tricky to get them in the right place both times. Right. Now what I need to do is put the hole in, and then then turn it inside out. I'll cut some of the ends off as well. Okay, so I've now got 2 of my bear's arm pieces done, which is great, sewn anyway. So they'll need jointing and stuffing, and let's get on with the body. So we have 4 pieces for the back and the front. So I'm going to lay them out and pin them and then come back. So I've got my piece clipped together, and I'm going to sew this seam. Well, I'm going to sew down to here and then back, and then down from here and then back. And this is going to be the back pieces of the bear. Right, I'm going to go all the way in with the needle. And then turn it round so I can come back the other way to do my second line of stitches over the top of the first. And I obviously started slightly off, so I'm going to make sure I do the seam allowance right to the top. And then back again. Okay. Oops. Right, so that's that side. Let me just turn the light off a minute. So not too bad, probably got a little close here. Probably a bit closer on the back actually. So, do I do that again? Maybe I'll do another line on the back side and just to be on the safe side. Okay. So basically I finished doing the seam, that straight part of the back, and so I need to just sort of stretch the seam, not stretch the seams, but roll the seams a little bit, and that's the back. And then I need to do the same on the front so that then I can join them together. Okay, so here's the front. Right, turn it around and go back. Probably ought to see. Okay, we're doing okay seam wise. Might need to come over a bit in this section, so I'll bear that in mind. I'm going to turn it around and then check out whether I need to stitch anymore. I think that's probably okay now, to be honest. I think that's okay. Right, we'll take that up then. Okay, so that's the back seam done. Oh well, the front seam done. Right, I'm going to double check watching the video, and then I might just pin these two together. You can have. So I have, so I've clipped all around the edge. Not sure where to start actually. I think I'm going to start at this top corner and then sew all the way around. And yeah, need to do the joints and stuff after. So the joint hole. Right, I'm going to get a pin, I think. I'll pin it right at the top and then I'll start a little bit further down. I think that's what I'll do. Okay. So you can see here that I'm just working my way around, stitching a little bit, adjusting, turning it a little bit at a time so that I can follow that edge of that seam round. And that's what I've done on all of the pieces so far. Obviously I don't want to show all of it because it's a bit boring just to watch 45 minutes of sewing, but I wanted to show just a little bit to show the technique that I'm using when I'm sewing these pieces. Right, now this is where it gets a bit trickier. I've got a pin tucked in there. So I'm getting to this seam. I think I'll take that out. And I don't want to actually go over the seam because there's a pin in it. So if I can move that pin a bit further down, maybe that'll be okay. We'll see. So try and open that seam out a bit. Tuck that under a bit. Right, let's try and spread that seam out a bit. Makes it quite difficult to see the 4mm line. Right, so that's it all the way around, until except for the top part. So I'm going to go all the way back and then see if I can catch that top part. I might just put the pin in there. Okay, right, let's turn him round. It's not as easy to go back this way, but it's easier than going completely backwards. So I have sewn round the edge of the to join the front part of the body and the back part of the body together. So it's got the area for the stuffing, and this will be the neck area. So what I need to do before I turn it the right way out, I've added the holes for the different joints as well, put those in. And then I need to do some running stitch around the top of the neck with extra strong thread, 2 doubled up, and pull it tight so it's just the size of a screw or a bolt, and then I can turn it inside out. I've also gone over the bottom point of the seam a couple of extra times just so that that's nice and tight. Okay. So I have gathered in the top and I turned it inside out, but then I realised that it had gone really frayed and I was just a bit worried that it would fray too much more, so I turned it back inside out and I've put on some of this fray stop, and I thought, well, while I'm there I might as well put it along the seams, the edges of the seams as well. So I've done that, and hopefully that will do the same job as the overcasting, that's what Lisa calls it. So yeah, I didn't do the overcasting because I didn't really know how she was doing it. I think I'd be able to do it after I've done the seam because you can see where you're stitching, but she was stitching it before, so I thought, well, maybe just 2 rows of stitching will be enough, but actually maybe I will use the fray stop. Maybe I'll turn the arms back inside out. The only thing is it does go quite stiff, so I might just test it on this before I do it on the arms because it might not want it in the arms. But yeah, Let me turn this the right way out. It's very dull here at the minute, so it's not the best lighting for filming, to be honest, but just do what I can. Okay, maybe they seem to be okay actually, because they do squash down quite well. So I've got a joint. I think this one's slightly too big. I think I need one of the smaller ones, but I just dug it out to test it out. So that's the top. So it does look a lot better actually. So let's just put the joint in, and again I'll swap it for a smaller one. Fiddly to find the right. Okay, so I'll just pull it a bit tighter. So I think that's going to look okay. I think once I've glued it down and pressed it, I think the fraying's going to be more manageable. I wish I'd put the fray stop on quicker, but I think that's probably the only joint where it's got any raw edges inside. So yeah, so that is the body. Obviously it looks a bit weird at the moment. Let me take that out again. So we've got the body done. Well, I say done, it's not really done, is it? But the body's stitched and the two arms done. Oops. So then in the next video it will be on to doing the legs and doing the head, and then we'll look at the jointing.